Hey, welcome back to Phoenix Kitchen. Today we're taking the classic Cuban sandwich and turning it into a delicious sausage. Let's see how we did it. All right, the first thing we did was gather all of our ingredients that we need for the sausage and get all of our spices measured out. This is a cured sausage, so you see there the pink salt that I just set down. We're going to use salt, pepper, garlic, and onion powder, obviously, cumin, and a few other spices, in addition to the zest of limes and oranges with a little bit of their juice to get that classic pork roast flavor that would be on a Cuban sandwich. Adding to these from the Cuban sandwich, we're going to have ham, we're going to have Swiss, and we're going to have dill pickles. We'll go ahead and get those all cubed up for our sausages. Then we'll be ready to grind our meat and mix everything together. Now, as it says in the recipe down below, once you've juiced your limes and your oranges, we're going to go ahead and fill up the rest of our 1 cup measuring cup with water to finish out the amount of liquid that we need for our sausage. So we're going to go ahead and get our cheese, our ham, and our pickles cubed up and ready for the sausages. You have to keep in mind what size sausages you're making. We're going to be using pork casings, 32 to 35 millimeter pork casings. So we'll be going through a normal bratwurst size extruder. So I'm going to cut these into about 1/4 inch cubes. That way they'll fit in the sausage. They'll go through the tube easily, and we'll be able to still encounter a good bite as we eat the sausage and tell that we're biting into these chunks. We'll be able to see them clearly through the sausage. And it's just going to be the perfect size. If we get too big, we'll have problems fitting them through the extruder. And if we get too small, particularly with the cheese, it can just melt and end up oozing out and getting everywhere and not really giving you what you're looking for texture-wise from your sausage at the end. So we'll go ahead and get these cut up into those 1/4 inch or so cubes and weigh those out. We're at 225 grams on each ingredient, the Swiss cheese, the ham, and the pickles, and then we'll be ready to go ahead and dice the meat. All right, so today we're going to be working with a pork butt for our sausage. Now, I already have 2.5 pounds of meat, just under 2.5 pounds of meat that I pulled from the freezer from other projects that were left over, already diced. So I'm actually taking a good chunk of this pork butt from the boneless side, and I'm going to set that aside, and that is going to become some buckboard bacon. Which is nice just because of the way that's almost rounded. You can really cut off some thick slices, and it makes wonderful additions to sandwiches. instead of using strips. One of the reasons you'd want to make bacon out of something this shape. We're going to go ahead and cut the remainder of the meat off of the bone. It doesn't really matter what shape, because all we're going to do is cube it up and grind it anyway. And as we get that cut off, we'll weigh that out to make sure we have the appropriate amount to make our 5-pound batch. That's how the recipe is going to be listed down below. I'm making a full 5 pounds here because I know for a fact that I love Cuban sandwiches, and I know for a fact that this recipe is great because I've had it already. So I'm just showing you today to share it with you. We'll get this all cut up and ground up and be ready to mix things together. All right, today we're going to be using the 4mm die. We're looking for kind of a medium ground on this. We'll go ahead and get everything ground through, and then we'll mix in our seasonings. All right, so the first thing that we're going to add to this is all of our dry ingredients. We want to be able to get those mixed thoroughly. You can do this in your stand mixer if you want, but you have to be really careful about not over mixing because we're not quite ready to emulsify that fat. We don't want to turn this into a hot dog. We do want it to emulsify some so that we get a nice tacky bind-it sausage. But we don't want to over mix. So we're just going to go through, and we really want to make sure that as we twist and turn, we think about the blades of a mixer. That's going to include kind of pushing in as we fold from the outside, fold from the bottom, pick it up, flip it, squeeze it. Get that seasoning mixed thoroughly, or else you'll end up with some bland bites of sausage and some overpowering bites of sausage. Once we've got our spices all blended in thoroughly, then we're going to go ahead and add in the zest. Once we've got it mixed, then we can add in our liquid. The liquid will loosen the sausage up a bit, which really helps us then to mix in those big chunks and get them mixed thoroughly. If you try to mix the big chunks while this sausage is this tight and tacky, it's a near impossibility to get it mixed thoroughly. So the moisture will really help to get that done. Once everything's all mixed together and distributed as evenly as possible, we'll get our stuffer loaded and get these into the casings. All right, we're going to go ahead and load this into our stuffer. I'm spraying the stuffer with just a little non-stick oil, vegetable oil, canola oil, whatever you want. It just helps the gasket to slide more smoothly and keeps your equipment working properly so you don't have to replace that gasket as often. One thing to note here, I use a 5-pound sausage stuffer, and we're making a 5-pound batch. However, we've added about 1.5 pounds of ingredients with the ham, the Swiss cheese, and the pickles. So it will not all fit. And to make things cleaner and easier, I'm going to stuff about 3.5 pounds in here. I want to leave a few inches from the top so that as we mash the plunger down into the stuffer, we don't start to ooze out the sides and across the top. It just keeps things a little cleaner. We'll stuff all of those, then we'll come back and grab the remainder to finish stuffing. All right, so we've got the stuffer set up, and we're going to go ahead and bring that plunger down. We want our sausage mixture to come all the way to the tip of our tube. The reason that we're doing that is that we don't want to push air into our casings, right? You'll see many people making sausage videos where they have to run through with a poker and they're getting all these air bubbles out so that their sausages don't explode when they cook them. You know, it's easier if you simply don't put the air in to start with. Not saying this will take out 100% of the air, but you won't have nearly as much. So we're using natural pork casings. If you've never done this before, they're going to come packed in salt. That's why these are in a bowl of water. It rinses that salt off and introduces pliability back into the casings. And what we're doing here is opening it up, and we're running some of that water through the middle to get the salt out of the inside. You don't want big salt pockets as you're trying to eat your sausage. So we just work that down. It also helps to unwind the casing, which makes it slide just a little easier onto the extruder. We take a little bit of the water and we moisten the extruder. That also helps to lubricate it so that the casings can slide on easily. We get that on, load them all the way up. We leave 1.5 inches, 2 inches off the end so we can tie a knot. And then we just bring it all the way, then bring that knot all the way to the tip to get all the air out. Then we're ready to start loading our sausages. We can do it one of two ways. We can load and twist, or we can simply load the entire casing and then twist our individual links, which is what I'm going to do today. If you want to do that, you're not going to stuff it all the way full. Otherwise, you have no room to work, because this method is going to involve us deciding how long the sausage is going to be, pinching a spot down so we can make the twist. And as we do that, we're going to stuff the sausage that we're twisting into a full thickness by moving some of that sausage up as we twist. And then we obviously want to leave a little bit of casing on the end as we pull it off to be able to tie up that last sausage. So we've got everything loaded on here, and we're going to get this knot tied and go ahead and get this thing started. After we've got our links twisted, we go ahead and take that end piece, get it all nice and thickened up, get a knot tied just as close to the end of that as possible to hold it in place. And then we're going to go ahead and roll these up and place them on a wire rack. All of our sausages will go onto the wire rack, which will sit on this pan in the refrigerator overnight. The overnight is for a couple things. Without using an accelerator for the cure, we're going to need to give it 12 hours for the cure to work. We also want our casings to dry and shrink up. As they dry out, that's really going to help them to adhere to the smoke also the next day. You can speed up this process a little bit if you need to, setting them under a fan, particularly if you're not using the curing salt, and you can go ahead and eat immediately, or if you're using a cure accelerator, you can do that. But at any rate, we're going to go ahead and do it the long way. We're going to set them in the fridge overnight. So we're going to go ahead and get another casing loaded up and get all of this cased and ready to go in the fridge. All right, so it's been all the way to the next day, and these are out of the fridge. Everything is dried up nicely. I've been able to go ahead and clip these apart. We're going to get a fire started. Now, you notice we're going to use a very small coal bed pushed all the way to the end of our firebox, as far away from the cooking chamber as possible. Just one nice big log, very low, slow flames. We're going to close this door down to about 3/4 and generate a lot of smoke at a very low temp. We get everything onto the smoker and close it up. Now, it looks like a lot of smoke, and we talk about generally when we're barbecuing, we want clean smoke. You'll notice we do have tinges of blue, so it is clean. We have enough airflow, but we're keeping it restricted down below 150 degrees and generating that lot of smoke because these sausages need time to really soak up that flavor. You'll see after just 1 hour, we're starting to get some coloration on them. And then we close it back up. We come back to check. And what we'll see is that nice, beautiful color starting to develop on these. They smell amazing at this point. We are cooking these with hickory today. As you look, you can see the chunks of pickles, the chunks of cheese. You can see the spices. We know they're going to be amazing. So we bring them in, we put them in an ice bath because we want to shrink that casing down and make it nice and snappy. We'll go ahead and heat one up so that we can test it. We cut into it. There's a nice chunk of pickle. Get a cross section. You can see those. As we cross section the other half, you can see the ham up top with no seasoning and the Swiss cheese there, ooey and gooey. So we made a mustard aioli that is Cuban flavored and inspired. Recipe down below. Made plantains and Cuban black beans to make a little Cuban sandwich. Absolutely amazing sausage. We're giving away a 5-piece cast iron lodge cookware set when we hit 1,000 subscribers. All you have to do is like a video and subscribe to the channel to be entered in the giveaway.